So welcome to the Factions Abridged series. Today we've got a really brilliant mission, probably my favorite mission in terms of what it's about and the environment and everything, and even the mechanics for Cantha, with some really crucial, amazing lore. This is in many ways like the climax of the whole story to me, which is interesting, considering we've got 2 more missions later. So earlier in the story, we had the Visitor Square mission, in which 2 separate parties of players joined together to meet in a single mission. Well, here at the end of the campaign, the devs do that again. This time, it's not foreigners and locals, it is the Kurziks and the Luxons. A new temporary truce has taken place, and we have 2 entry points for the same mission. So this is a 16-man mission, and what a fun idea they've gone with. What we have here is a temple at the center of a frozen whirlpool, and down one spiraling arm of the whirlpool will enter the Luxons, and down another arm of the whirlpool in the other direction will enter the Kurziks as they fight a common foe in the center. How frickin' badass. On top of that, this is a location we've seen in the trailer for the game, and we've got lots of background information about it as we've been playing through, and perhaps if we've read An Empire Divided, we're going to get some cool flashbacks here. This is just amazing. The only weak part, really, of the story at this point is it's like, why are we coming here? Well, we don't really know, because Shiro might return, and we've seen Afflicted around, so Shiro was maybe here. Also, we heard the Kurziks came here, or vice versa, we heard the Luxons came here. Why would Shiro be here? Well, I guess we're about to find out. This is also the introduction of one of the no, I'm not going to say one of, like literally the most important character in this entire setting as far as Guild Wars 2 is concerned. So that would be the dragon Kunavang. At this point in the story, we've seen various creatures named dragons, and we know that it's the Dragon Empire, and dragons are like a recurring motif all the time. We've had the idea of the Dragon Emperors and Wayno Su and stuff, and in the sea in particular, we've seen salt spray dragons, and there have been some interesting side quests where they talk to us, and we learn that they're lucky and all this stuff. We learn that they were actually nice, amenable creatures that would talk to us, but the Jade Wind pissed a lot of them off. Well, here we're going to see like the big daddy salt spray. It's a dragon much like Glint in a lot of ways. You know, Glint was this big prominent NPC in the Tyrion campaign who was a dragon, and now we're going to get a big prominent NPC in the Factions campaign who's a dragon. And remember that over Guild Wars 2 they have made Glint into a big character. So surely this upcoming Guild Wars 2 expansion will make Kunavang a big character. This is where we meet Kunavang. Let's have a look at the introductory NPC and get a very cool opening cutscene. Now is the time to join forces with the Kurziks. We must journey into the whirlpool and fight Kunavang to acquire the power necessary to stop Shiro. So hold on, what? After performing your heroic deeds, you convince the Luxons to put aside the differences with the Kurziks. Well, Togo did, really. According to Togo, it will take the strength of 2 armies to defeat Shiro once and for all. It's not even according to Togo, it's according to the envoys, but fine. What do the Kurziks and Luxons hope to accomplish here? Well, we have come to the whirlpool to receive power from the great dragon Kunavang. This is where the Luxon champion Archimorus, who defeated Shiro, received his power from all those years ago. Now, if I was at the Unwaking Waters Kurzik side, they would say, well, the hero St. Victor came here, right? So this is the temple where all that happened. This is where Vizu was as well, for what it's worth. But, you know, we already talked to Vizu several episodes ago. That's interesting. You heard the sound effect of one of my heroes summoning a minion there, wherever we had spawned placeholder before the actual cinematic itself started. They did that through Aura of the Lich Elite skill. That's funny. So, we're back in time. Shiro, who has been convinced that this is a bad day, and that although he's the personal bodyguard of this emperor, Aang Sayang, 200 years ago, he must kill the emperor, and he's got that running through his head. Look how big he is compared to everyone else.
Has the temple been secured?
Yes, my emperor. There is no one inside. Your safety is assured.
You will allow my retinue and my bodyguard to pass. They are coming with me.
But no one except you is allowed inside the temple. Those were your own orders.
There's been a change of plans. You will let them through.
So Shiro...
As you wish.
So Shiro becomes suspicious of this change which I guess was actually just innocent. And so then Angsai and I love this view of the temple without the whirlpool around. Like, those look like pretty still waters, to be honest. Maybe the Jade Sea wasn't always turbulent, because this looks pretty calm and clear, at least on this day. The idea of this festival, by the way, is to bring in the harvest and commune with Dwayna.
Beware the harvest ceremony.
And it's because this ritual is interrupted that the Jade Wind occurs. So it's really the power of the gods doing this.
Beware the harvest ceremony.
Not necessarily elder dragons, which cause a lot of the big changes in the landscape in Guild Wars 2.
He's going to kill you.
There's been a change of plans.
But no one except you is allowed
There's
inside
been
the
a
temple.
change of plans.
But no one except
There's
you is
been a
allowed
change of
inside the
plans.
temple.
The Emperor. Oh, he is going to kill you.
And so right about now is when the events of the CGI trailers start.
Beware the harvest ceremony. You must make the choice. Him or you.
So he is defeated by the three heroes, Vizu, Archimedes, and Victor. And instead of going to the afterlife, becomes an envoy. 200 years pass, and now he's traveling around. And wherever he goes, the afflicted follow. He's summoning his spirit army, and he's mad at us because we knocked him back with, the urn and the spear before. So this is it. This is the actual location. What a cool appearance for this place. Temple's in the center. The border of the forest is over there, and a great vast whirlpool stretches out between us. I'm going to run in with the current party, and hopefully we'll be okay. The builds you use here can be very specific. I actually have a video on my second channel of abusing energy surge and stuff to beat this boss in hard mode in like a couple of seconds. But this mission is basically just a boss fight, which is really, really cool. One of the reasons why it's a bit of a short mission though. So let's see how it goes. So because of the whole 16-man thing, we're in a waiting pen for a minute again, which is a good time to read the lore description from the guide. Now that you have, with Master Togo's help, brought peace, perhaps temporary, to the Kurziks and Luxons, it is time for your new allies to track down and destroy the source of Shiro's power. This source is an ancient dragon that has been corrupted by Shiro, and it lies within a whirlpool of magical energy hidden inside the Harvest Temple, the site of Shiro's death and the murder of his old emperor, Angsai. The dragon is not unprotected. This being the focal point of Shiro's evil, it is surrounded by afflicted creatures, including a powerful boss. Once inside the temple, the heroes must battle the dragon, descending into the depths of the whirlpool. And if successful, they will strip the dragons of Shiro's taint and learn at last the nature of the betrayer's true plan. The dragon is protected by a series of barriers. So that's what they say. And the suggestion is that Kunavang is Shiro's power somehow, which I don't think the game itself does, so we don't need to look up very much, but I guess that's one of the things the devs are going out with, one of the motivations for us to come here. So here's the way that this mission works. There's afflicted around, and floating out above the lower areas of the whirlpool on the right, as you spiral down like a corkscrew, you find the dragon itself. So you really need to use ranged abilities and spellcast abilities to hit the dragon itself, while melee characters can be dealing with these afflicted and, various threats that are actually on the same plane as you. So Kunavang flies around, and if you're really, really big damage and really, really fast, you can just nuke her straight into the second phase of the mission. Basically, there's two arenas in which you fight her. One is here at the Whirlpool, and then when you get her really low, you're going to fight her in the temple itself as well. But so there she is. She has lots of dialogue about the Whirlpool and talking about our petty magic, which I think is pretty cool. The idea that she's a dragon that knows about magic really lines up very well with a lot of the Elder Dragon storylines and the idea that Elder Dragons hoard it. And we really get basically, just so that you Guild Wars 2 players know, no information about her true history or why she's here or what she's been doing out of the context of the Shiro story. Like, we only really interact with her in terms of, oh, she was corrupted by Shiro, blah, 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 blah. What else do we learn? Basically nothing, and that's why so much is fair game for connecting her later to an Elder Dragon. Even though the movement of the world suggests she might not have been, the movement of the world also suggested Glint wasn't, only for it to turn out Glint actually was. I think she looks great as she's flying off in the background over there. Very, very big creature. So there I was actually going to pretty much instantly kill her. I'm scared. So I actually flagged all of my heroes and characters away just so that I could have the mission go on a little bit longer and give you guys a greater sense of what's going on. So yeah, she runs off after you do a bit of damage, and then you follow along and you deal with the afflicted. One thing I'm not actually certain of is right now I think she might be on the other side of the whirlpool fighting the Kurzik party as they spiral on their half, I think. Or if they may be connected with us already. Did we somehow unify? I'm not sure. Anyway, you get some familiar afflicted bosses as you go along. And they'll often come through these choke points. There's another little mechanic at play here as well where you find this thing called a resurrection orb, which is essentially a copy-paste of the idea of the Urn of St. Victor from before, except obviously we had the Urn of St. Victor be destroyed, so how could, you know, we have that? I guess the devs wanted to have their cake and eat it too. I think over on the other side, they have an item that's a bit like the Spear of Archimedes. So the Kurziks kind of gets to play with the spear a little bit, and the Luxons kind of get to play with something a bit like the urn, maybe to show the unity between the parties. Maybe, I'm not actually sure on that, and I haven't really read about it or looked it up very much. I don't really anticipate my players dying, so I'm just going to drop the Resurrection Orb right away. But the idea there is, you know, it would res people in the area if they were defeated. So really, my plan is just to clear down these afflicted. And that was a great pull there and a good demonstration of just how slow the minions are in this comp right now. I really think a skill that would have been really cool in Guild Wars 1, and I don't think it exists, but would be a skill for a Necromancer that is your minions move faster. And that's it. A lot of the other stuff is like everyone else is moving faster together, but if you had just a way of increasing the movement speed of minions alone and not anyone else's, it would mean that they keep up, and this whole like minion bomb idea where they're a fleshy wall that's supposed to explode in their face would be a lot smoother. I mean, I'm kind of asking with a skill like that for quality of life on what is already a very overpowered playstyle, so maybe it's not really necessary. Anyway, so as you notice, the idea here is like we can DPS Kunavang in phases, getting lower and lower and lower down the temple. And then what happens when we get to the very bottom? Well, that's when we phase into the final fight. The thing is, if you just DPS are hard enough, quick enough, you can instantly phase, and you can beat this whole mission in like 1 minute, as I've demonstrated in that video on my other channel I talked about before. The specific visual design of her here as well, by the way, is different to what she ultimately becomes. This is what she looks like while she's corrupted by Shiro. And I actually think she looks really badass here. But it's like an afflicted dragon we're fighting there. It's very unique. It only appears in that area of the game. So yeah, I hit her through the HP breakpoint. And now all 16 players in the ruins of the temple itself, which you'll note looks nothing like it did in the cutscene. Let's just say it was the 200 years that did that. Get to fight her here. Because, and so you'll see, look, I got Rottweilers with me and stuff. Various denizens of the Echovaled Forest, even though I joined without them from the Luxon side. So she's mad, and this is one of those things, if you want to get all the lore, you have to kind of DPS her slowly. She's back up to 100% health. I think she might get a couple of new abilities in this phase. Unfortunately, she's very, very, very easy to deal with, though, these days. I mean, she didn't even manage to kill me there, which I almost thought she was going to. I came close. To be honest, I've probably got too many superior runes on my character here. I don't have that much health. I'm used to being around 600, but here I'm at 300. Well, 430. But anyway, so there you go. That's the whole mission. It's just a boss mission, and it's a well-made one, and it introduces a pretty cool character. Be prepared for some weird voice acting for her character, but again, Glint sounded pretty awful in GW1 too.
You have released me from his grasp.
Shiro's grasp?
Yes, it was his touch that corrupted my body and fought for control of my spirit. His foul presence tore at my flesh and withered my bones. Still, I resisted. You brought me back to this life, you a tremendous debt.
Please, it is enough of a reward to simply be in your presence. You owe us nothing.
Let me give you a piece of advice. Never refuse.
Oh my god, the audio's bugging.
When the time is right, I will grant you the powerful magics you require to defeat Shiro, the unholy deceiver. Together we will send him back to the underworld where he belongs.
What is it he seeks? Judging from the locations where we've encountered him, I'd say he's doing research.
Research? For what?
Yes, you are right. He must be preparing a spell.
A spell? To do what?
To leave the spirit realm and join your world again as flesh and blood.
We congratulate you. Your debt to us is nearly paid in full. Complete this final task, and you will have earned your mortality.
What is it you ask of us?
Shiro is very close to getting what he is after. He needs to do only one last deed to cast his spell.
What deed? What will he do?
That which cursed him in the first place. He will spill the blood of the royal family.
The Emperor.
Yes, the blood of your emperor is the last component needed to give Shiro back his mortality. Your final task is to stop this from happening.
Hurry now. You have no time to waste.
Well, so there we go. That's pretty much the big reveal, which they leave to the end. Shiro it's like a Voldemort story, really. He just wants to come back to life. He's trying to get back to life, and that's all he's got to do. That obviously puts the Emperor in peril, and that sets us up for where we travel to now. With Kunavang defeated, you'll see that she's become cleansed, so to speak, and looks like a regular Salt Spray Dragon now. I know that in the Abridged series you haven't really seen any of those, but there she is. And so this is kind of where we leave her. In the next mission, you'll see she makes an appearance. She gives us some special skills. But then she's just free to roam and live and do whatever. And she could totally and should totally be about 250 years from now. I mean, she was long-lived before she got corrupted before the Jade Wind, which was 200 years ago. She's here. I do think that the devs can do something really interesting with her character in that, you know, one of the main things about Elder Dragons and the Elder Dragon story is Elder Dragon corruption. And Elder Dragons losing their mind. And, you know, like, we see Kralkatorik's torment recently and all that. Well, here we've got the story of a draconic creature that they could easily make a champion of the Deep Sea Dragon, perhaps, or any number of connections. But had another kind of corruption, you know, kind of fell to Shiro. They're going to find a way to unify all these stories and make them interlock and make sense. It'll be interesting to see whether the devs can really go for that. So yeah, we're now at the Harvest Temple, which serves as the last outpost that gives a bunch of new interesting skills. And has the description: the site of Cantha's most infamous murder, the Harvest Temple, in which Emperor Aang was struck down by the treacherous Shiro Tagachi, still stands. It's the geographic epicenter of the Jade Wind, a place of fear, danger, and bitter memories. Here, the mighty dragon Kunavang still lurks in the caverns beneath the temple, utterly corrupted by the proximity of Shiro's death wail. It's interesting, the description here is written as though we're reading this before we fight the boss. But we've obviously already cleansed her. We're not scared of her. I like the idea that there's some caverns down here, though, that we get to visit in Guild Wars 2, and that's where she's hiding in Guild Wars 2. It wouldn't take much for the devs of today to read this description and then decide to roll with that in the sequel. That'd be pretty nice. And again, just as I mentioned before, whether that would come with the expansion itself or way later, because at the end of the day, this is pretty distant. Assuming the expansion starts with us in the city, would it be Living World? We finally go into the caverns below this place. What do it look like in the sequel? Can we actually climb as well? Because it's a huge tower, and yet in Guild Wars 2, we just get this one little platform down here. So there's nothing left now but to return to the city and participate in the final arc, where the Shiro is going for the Emperor himself. But before I do that, I did want to take a little bit of time in this video to talk to you guys about the elite missions in the Echovaled Forest and the Jade Sea. So, this was another attempt at, like, some interesting endgame. The game already had Sorrow's Furnace, and it had the Underworld, and it had the Fissure of Woe. When Factions came out, the devs decided to give it another format, and what they did was they made really ridiculously long, challenging, trolly missions with a 12-man party size instead of the 8-man that people have got used to already. There was also kind of 12-man battles in the Alliance battles, but that's a slightly different topic. So the endgame missions were hyper exclusive. Only the players with the most faction at the time could actually get into them, which was pretty interesting. Nowadays you can buy scrolls to just bypass all of that, but I'll show you guys what they look like. So first of all, we have the Deep. Where's the scroll I just bought? So here's Passage Scroll. Oh wait, that was the Fissure of Woe. I didn't mean to buy one to there. The Deep and Ergo's Warren. Here we go. So I'm not actually going to play these. I do already have videos on them. The item can't be used here. Really? It can only be used in Cavalon and Embark Beach. Fine. I would have thought any town would have been good enough, but I suppose not. Alright, so first of all, you've got Cavalon. If you owned Cavalon itself, the town, if you were the Alliance that owned it, you got access to an exclusive area in this town that had access then to the mission. That was the only way it launched to get in. Later, there were other methods of ferrying, and then finally they added these scrolls. But so this is an elite mission. It's got its own story set after the events of Factions, and I think for the Guild Wars 2 expansion, the devs would do well to really look at the story here, or the two stories here, and play into them. So this is the Deep. The idea is we are deep underground. You can't actually see exactly where. And the Luxons were mining here. They eventually dug into a chamber that had a demon within it, and they all went crazy. They became the Outcasts. This demon was connected with the Oni. The demon was known as Kanaxai, and this mission is about taking it out. Now, what's kind of interesting is if we have a look at the challenge missions on the surface, one of the challenge missions kind of hints as to this endgame elite mission location, the Deep. And then the strategy guide actually has cool extra information about them that I had never really looked into before. So I thought I'd read them to you guys now. I'm just trying to find the right page here. So, the Deep. They say, deep beneath the surface of the Jade Sea, a demon of nightmares was trapped when Shiro's death whale struck. A remote Luxon tribe discovered the demon's resting place while mining the sea for jade and other resources, and became corrupted. Thereafter, they were known as the Luxon Outcasts. The Luxons asked their boldest heroes, who must be members of the highest rated alliance of the Luxon side, to seek out the source of these outcasts, which may also be related to the reappearance of the wicked Oni in Cantha. So, they've got a little bit of information about this mission that is really weird. Basically, it's set up into large rooms and chambers where you have a different challenge in each one as you go deeper and deeper down. In the strategy guide, they name each room after various skills. So one of the rooms is called Shameful Fear. This stuff never ended up in the game. One of them is called Iocane Extract, which I guess is a skill the devs never implemented in the end. One's called Wastrel's Worry, which is a mesmer skill you've actually been seeing me use. And another one's called Conjure Nightmare, but that hint to a skill that doesn't exist is kind of weird. So the guide gives some extra information about all the different creatures you find here. The Leviathan Claws, for example. Arthropod creatures corrupted by Kanaxai's malevolent influence. Crawling crabs, coastal crawlers that have been infected with Kanaxai's evil. The Oni are demonic killers that are natural servants for Kanaxai, who has easily worked his will on them. Suggesting some Oni don't just work to his ends, by the way. And so they talk about the outcasts. Luxon outcasts have been corrupted by the demon Kanaxai and will strike out at even their former allies. These outcasts and the mystery of their origin is why the Luxons have asked you here to help. The outcasts, you soon learn, are better off dead. There is no way to bring them back to normal. Guild Wars 2 could totally do stories about the outcasts and about this idea of Kanaxai, who's described as the demon of nightmares. And they go into a little bit of information about defeating him. Again, if you want to see real information about how to beat this mission, you should check out the specific video I did on it. But let's go over to the equivalent one, which is perhaps even more interesting, perhaps because of the Sylvari connection. Ergo's Warren. It's accessed in the same way. You have to be in the alliance of the main town, so the most elite of players here. You get 12 of them together, and now you get to attempt this. It's called the Ergo's Warren. It's actually the first of the two that I played, and one of my favorite missions in all of Guild Wars 1. And here you fight a giant tree spirit called Ergos. defended by all these corrupted dredge and wardens. Here in the guide, actually, it does talk a bit about Ergos as something gone mad, a tree spirit gone mad that will stop at nothing to eliminate the human interlopers on what he considers his territory. So, if we consider Ergos to be an equivalent of the avatar of the Pale Tree in Guild Wars 2, they could certainly do something fun here as well. And what's really mind-blowing in the strategy guide on this one is the open world challenge mission, the Amet's Basin. In this guide, they say that Ergos was originally going to appear there. And they actually have lore about Ergos in that mission, where instead of looking like he really does, he looks just like an island guardian. And they say this fiendish tree-like spirit has long resented the Kurzik presence in the Echovad Forest, even before it was turned to stone. Ergos bided his time, waiting for the Kurziks to leave this section of the frontier unprotected, and he has chosen this moment to strike. It appears he has chosen well. So that's pretty incredible. The strategy guide also talks about the Wardens, which appear in abundance here alongside Ergos and his minions, and refers to them properly as Wardens. So remember in the previous video where I talked about the idea that there'd be Dryads in the forest? Well, I guess the devs had an idea of doing Dryads in the forest and Wardens in the forest, but eventually just cut the idea of the Dryads out and made them all Wardens in the end. But yeah, so those are the 2 elite missions. They are very fertile ground, I think, for Guild Wars 2 topics, and most players probably don't think about them when it comes to the sequel game. But there you go, so that's it. We are now on to the final 2 missions. The last mission is just a boss fight, and there's one big one before it. So join me next time for the penultimate episode of this abridged series about factions at the Raisu Palace. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you there.